Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 525, Meeple Nation May 2024 News.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
The Meeple Nation podcast is sponsored by Game Toppers LLC. Make every game night epic and amazing, just like we do here at Meeple Nation, with a new game topper, or maybe even two, or whatever you need to make games epic and amazing. You can get a full table, leg kit, dining covers, accessories, mat, the whole kit and caboodle, or you could just get a topper to throw on top of an existing table.
Or just a mat.
They've got the best of whatever you need to make playing games the best experience it possibly can be. So go check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Nathan Howard.
And I am Douglas Stewart.
And he's got his nose to the grindstone again. There's a rumor that he might make it again this week, but we will see what happens. He didn't make it last week, so maybe he'll make it this week. We'll see.
I'm not holding my breath.
I'm not either. It's been a rough go for Andy lately.
Yeah. Well, he's doing the right thing. He's working hard and providing for a family. So
yeah. If you need something to provide some information for you, Meeple Nation has a source for that. Go to meeplenation.com. We have all sorts of things that you can look at there. You can email us at meeplenation@gmail.com. You don't need to go to the link. You can actually just type that in anywhere. We would love to hear from you and start a conversation that way. Maybe even get some games played on BGA. Always an option. But you will find on our website a link to that Patreon page. We love our patrons. Our patrons help make everything magical happen on the podcast. With that help, we try to not muddy it up too much and try to bring you something worthwhile.
It really does help us out a lot. In fact, before this episode started, we were just talking about possibly needing to replace our soundboard soon because it's got a couple little minor issues. And so it really helps to have that Patreon money available so that we can keep up with just basic equipment needs and web hosting, and goes a long way. So we really do appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. All that information can be found at meeplenation.com.
Awesome. Well, that's going to take us into our weekly highlights. I'm looking at the list here, Nathan, and I'm excited to see what of these games you have put down that you are going to talk about this week.
I don't know if I'm super excited about this. I had an enjoyable experience with it, though. I've played it 4 or 5 times, and that is Sherlock 13. This is a game that Arcane Wonders had sent us, and it is very simple. And you're just trying to solve a murder, solve a crime, not necessarily murder, and you have 13 suspects, and it's all set in the Sherlock Holmes era, or Sherlock Holmes mythos, trying to inquire what resources somebody has on their cards. You can interrogate them, say, how many pipes do you have, Doug? Or you can ask the general question, how many pipes does everyone, or who has pipes? And everybody who has pipes will raise their hand, and you're kind of in that Clue vein where you have a sheet and you're trying to mark what is out there.
It's the same deduction style as something like Clue. It's exactly the same thing, only much simpler. You wouldn't think that Clue could get a lot simpler, but this made it simpler.
I played it with my wife, 2 players. The game's lasted like 3 minutes.
Oh, it's definitely one that can be played in under 10 minutes.
But surprisingly though, playing with you and Andy a couple weeks back, I was expecting it to be just a quick, simple game. I mean, it went like 6 minutes instead of 3 minutes.
We doubled the play time.
But it was a much different experience at 3 players than it was at 2 players.
Yeah.
And I still haven't had the chance to play it with 4 players, but I thought for, it's a small box.
Yep.
Little game, great filler game, opportunity to play it that I've enjoyed. And it's not a game that I'm going to be calling anytime soon, because I think it's just something that just fits that nice void that sometimes happen on game night.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you've got maybe younger players or players that maybe aren't looking for something quite as deep.
Or something at the end of the night.
Yep, end of the night, or even just people who really like deduction. There's people out there that just really love that core deduction mechanic.
I'm sitting right here.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I definitely think it has its place. It was enjoyable for what it was. Just as a really fast, throw the cards and paper and little dividers up for everyone. And 5 minutes later, it's done.
I very much enjoyed it. But that's Sherlock 13, very simple deduction game.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the game that I wanted to talk about is definitely not a little 5-minute game. I finally got a chance to play my copy of Wormspan.
And did you like it?
I did. I liked it quite a lot, in fact.
Oh, good.
This is a game that I am hearing a lot of people say, like, oh, I like this better than Wingspan. I like it more. I've heard that from a number of people. People at our game night, people on YouTube channels that I watch, people on podcasts that I listen to. I've heard that a number of times. I'm just going to say this. I think that it's largely because some of the Wingspan flair, the shine, worn off. And because of that, people are seeing Wormspan as something new and shiny. And they're going, oh, this is better. This is awesome. We love this kind of thing. I think that if Wingspan and Wormspan were to have come out at the same time, I think people would be lauding Wingspan as the better game.
I see that. You have that game, you have Raising Robots, which is a very similar mechanic theme. And what I think it comes down to is you have a sci-fi theme, you have a fantasy theme, and you have a natural
theming. Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think that theme definitely has a lot to do with it. I mean, people have thrown out, what if Wingspan had a dragon version? I think people have been throwing that idea around since the very first, even before Wingspan came out, when it first was announced, right. People were talking about that. So I think that people maybe have worked that idea up in their minds just a little bit. And because it's the shiny new thing, it's got all this praise or whatever. I think it's very good. I think it's excellent, in fact. I really had a great time. I have the deluxe components on back order, and I can't wait for those to come in because I think it'll add a little tactility to the game and everything. Yeah. But I really like it. The way that it works, it's similar in Wingspan to a lot of ways, but different enough that it's its own animal, for sure. It is definitely not the same game. It's got its own unique mechanisms, but running those caves the same way you might, run each column in Wingspan is really satisfying and fun. The idea that you have to build the cave and then put a dragon in it, I think is a fun twist. The Dragon Guild, the way that you can spend your actions and the way that, some things actually cost more actions to do and other things will actually, they'll give you bonus actions that you can take throughout the game. I think that's a really fun twist. It does mean that if you're playing with people who are really noodling the game out and trying to maximize stuff, it can mean that the third and fourth rounds of the game can be quite long. Yeah, if you're playing with 3 or 4 players. They've got these engines built that have to be run every time they take a turn. But it's satisfying, right? It's a satisfying thing. Definitely not as quick as Wingspan. I enjoyed it. I think it hits on the artwork. I think it hits on the components. I think it hits on the gameplay. I think it's a nice evolution of the system. I think that it's hitting on a lot of levels. I still think Wingspan, especially with all of its expansions and stuff, is still my preferred game to play over this, but we'll see as time goes on. I definitely want to play it again. I only played it the one time. I thought it was good. It definitely does have that if you're trying to do something and you just can't get the cards that you want or you can't find what you need, your engine is just kind of stymied, and that can feel a little bit discouraging, but yeah, it was fine. It was a good, well, it was more than fine. It was a good game. Really solid. I liked it a lot.
And I think I've mentioned this about my distaste. Distaste still sounds a little bit harsh. My lack of taste, I guess. Or
your meh feelings?
Yeah. Wingspan is all based on the fact that I feel like the draw deck became too much that when you're looking for specific cards that, every time we mention something, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of, maybe that's why I don't like Wingspan. Maybe that's why I don't like Wingspan. Great game. But I think for me, comparing it to Wormspan and Raising Robots, they're very different themes, but they have a similar layout in the mechanics. But I like both of those appeal more to me because I feel like there are a better avenue for me to complete the quests that I'm trying to complete.
I could see that.
If I'm looking for birds that have a wingspan of this, or birds that eat that, or birds that whatever it is that it meets my goal for that game, and I see this very ominous 500 card stack of, or 500 cards, 500 card deck, 10% of those cards are going to have the card I'm looking for. This is not going to work for me. And then to watch the next person to my left just be able to boom, 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 get whatever they want.
Yep.
Where that engine is just muddled for you, that it just, I don't know. So I'm looking forward to playing Wormspan.
Yeah.
And I think that it appeals to me more. I mean, I don't have anything against the birding theme. Fantasy theme isn't my most excited theme. The sci-fi theme appeals to me more.
Sure.
Even raising
surprising
robots,
no one. Yeah.
Even raising robots has not got me way excited, but the theme does appeal to me a little bit more. I think I'm looking forward to the opportunity where the avenue for me to score points doesn't seem too muddied.
Okay. I can completely and totally understand that. I will say, I think that Wingspan is a game that rewards players who've played it quite a bit.
I agree.
The strategies for scoring and building a tableau are pretty diverse and I think pretty tight. And if you're playing with a really experienced group of players, pretty neck and neck, even a little bit cutthroat on trying to get some of those cards and develop some of those synergies. Kind of has that going for it. At this point, it's been out with all the expansions and stuff for so long. There's a lot to explore with Wingspan.
Yeah.
And if you've played it a lot, it can be definitely a very competitive gaming experience. Now, I've played Raising Robots a few times and I've played Wormspan only once. And I will just say, of those three, I mean, if we're kind of comparing them, and if you've played all three of those, you know why we're comparing them. It's because of the way you build that tableau out and then run those different lines. Of those three, I still like Raising Robots.
Yeah.
I'd still play Raising Robots probably over Wormspan, I think. I was really glad that I got to play it. This is kind of the new Stonemaier hotness, and I think that they do a good job with games. This is a hit. It's definitely one that I want to play again. Again, I can't wait for those deluxe components to come in, and we'll kind of see where this one goes and where it ends up, landing. Played Wingspan not too long ago. One of those that probably gets played maybe once a quarter or so. Time goes, and we get some of these games in rotation and get more plays of them. It'll be interesting to see how I think the dust settles on it. But, for right now, I thought it was good.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to giving it a try for sure. All right. Are we ready to talk about some news?
Yeah, let's dive into it. If you didn't have any other highlights you wanted to talk about, let's dive in. Let's start with some new releases.
Games that are available in the wild now.
Correct.
So, right on the heels of Dorf Romantic, which is a game that is currently on my Shelf of Shame. We talked about Shelf of Shame games last week, and I'm not for sure I'm saying this name right, but I think that's what it is. Dorf Romantic, the board game. It's 1 to 6 player game.
Based on the video game that I think was quite popular.
Yeah.
I hadn't played it, but I think it did well.
So there's a new 2-player version of it, that Dorf Romantic, the Duel. Similar playtime, 30 to 45 minutes. But this is a strictly 2-player game that looks like it's scratching a lot of those same itches. Has the same basic principles, 2 independent playable modules to provide more challenge, more variety. You can play it cooperatively if you want, or you can compete. It has kind of a weird mechanic for a 2-player game. If you buy 2 copies of it, you can play as teams.
Oh, fun. Okay.
So that kind of defeats the whole purpose of a 2-player game, doesn't it?
So did they also change the name? Does the name magically change on the front of the box
from Duel to Teams?
Duel to Dorf Romantic Teams?
Yeah, I don't know. It should. Very interested in trying this, but it is on my Shelf of Shame. I will strive to pull it off, especially now that I have this 2-player version too, and then I might have regrets that I didn't get a second copy of this 2-player game. Who would think that you would need... I guess I did it with Star Wars, the deck building game.
Which we do need to try.
Yes. I've heard that it adds a considerable amount of time to Star Wars, the deck building game.
Yeah, but we still need to try it. We need to give it a go. Let's do it sometime.
But anyways, that's Dorf Romantic, the Duel.
Nice. Well, I will just say, I think we're in a little bit of a slower season for new releases.
Like it,
yeah, so there wasn't a lot. I mean, there's new stuff coming out all the time, but there wasn't a whole lot that I was super excited about actually talking about. I do have a couple of things that I'll throw out there. We were just talking about Wormspan. Wormspan was one that was sold out for a long time, but a new wave of it is available. You can definitely go get it out in the wild now. It seems to be more readily available, so you can go get that, as well as Last Light. So this was another one that was sold out for a long time, but you can go pick up a copy of that if you would like. And I'll just throw out there real quick, because the recent Kickstarter has fulfilled for Firefly, the 10th Anniversary Edition, you can now get anything that wasn't Kickstarter exclusive is now hitting the shelves for retail release.
And this is something you haven't played, right, Doug?
No, I haven't played it. I'm looking forward to it. I have not played Firefly yet.
I have my 10th Anniversary Edition over there, sitting next to my big damn crate from Broken Token.
I'm seeing all of it over there. It takes up most of the table.
And Andy is really interested about what's going to happen to that old crate of mine.
He wants to buy it.
He wants you to
give it to him.
Yeah, he wants me to give it to him. But the thing is, that's such a beautiful crate. I really have a hard time just getting rid of that. But it's going to be empty now. So I have a hard time keeping it as well.
Of all the first world problems I've ever heard in my life. I know.
But I'm really excited about this 10th anniversary, because it does have just pull out trays, player 1's tray, player 2 tray, player 3 tray. It has that big mat, roll out, fill up the whole table, has spots for every discard pile, draw pile, or you can just leave them in the inlays in the storage solution that's in the crate that holds the decks. I love it when a game does that, where it just puts everything there and everything has a place. And it's not just a row of cards, but it is separate sections for piles. I'm hoping that I can get you to the table, depending on how many people show up on Thursday night, get you the opportunity to play Firefly, the board game.
All right.
Because this used to be my all-time favorite game.
I'm super stoked. This is one I've been wanting to play for a long time. And I would have tried to kind of strong arm you into teaching me this one earlier, except we knew that this crowdfunding thing was taking place and this was all going on. And I think all of us have been kind of holding out for this 10th anniversary edition. So I can't wait for that. What other new releases are you excited about?
A recent, I'm going to say, acquisition on something to add to my Shelf of Shame. Hopefully it's not on the Shelf of Shame. Hopefully we get it to it sooner. And this is Exo World Survival Cooperative colony building game. We're on this new planet. We're using our character actions to build. We're going to build modules for life support. We're going to try to colonize and turn this new exo world into a hospitable place, work through scenarios to try to reach that goal. It has a really good playtime of 60 to 90 minutes, short scenario-driven games. I'm really excited about this. And the player count, 1 to 5. So you can go from one person. And I always love it when a game has 5, but the game better be good at 5.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Community says best at 2 and 3, which doesn't lead to promising opportunities to play that as a 5-player game, because getting it to the table with the 2 or 3 players is always more difficult, but I'm looking forward to it. The appeal of it looks really good, has that sci-fi theme that nobody has any idea or doubt that appeals to me, but looking forward to that, and that's Exo World Survival. Another one, a short little game, 2 to 8 players, is which is another one that says best at 2. This also has a BGA implementation, so if you are interested in that. So Doug, I'll be teaching you this game soon.
Okay.
Look at the stars, building and mapping out constellations and trying to fill out the constellations that are on your board as you're gazing at the night sky to try to make your map of constellations work. Plays up to 8 players simultaneously, which could be beneficial. But again, community says it's best at 2, so I have some reservations.
Kind of surprising me. I'm looking at it here, and that does surprise me that it says it's best at 2. Not a super highly rated game.
No.
Weight of 1.4, so super
very
light.
Simple.
Yeah, give that one a shot.
Yeah, so I think it could be one that's very much a filler at night. Looking forward to that one.
Cool.
Another one that I've picked up recently, this is one that actually Andy talked about a couple months back, was The Rats of Wistar. Mm-hmm. Play the role of one of 4 rats who are organized to escape from the lab. You have to lead your family, and you have to prove that you are the deserving leader of the entire colony. So it kind of gives me this whole Rats of Nim vibe
Yeah.
That's probably an old movie that I just dated myself to a lot of people.
It was excellent, though. The book and show were awesome. When this first came out, we were kind of reading over the description, and we were kind of doing that, Rats of Nim, that kind of thing. I'm looking at the pictures of it here on BGA, and it, not so much. not so much with the art and style of this.
Yeah, no, it's very kind of campy, family-friendly.
Yeah.
More like Ratatouille mice than Rats of Nim.
Now, this is one that I have been holding off on because it did sound like Andy was interested in this and was probably going to get it eventually. So I've been holding off on purchasing this one, but it is out in the wild and you can get it now. I'm hoping that he does because I do want to play it.
Yeah, it's over there.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I should have known. So, all right. So never mind. I'm not waiting for Andy to get it. Yeah. You have it.
Another one that's heavier on the heavy scale, 3.83, is the Salton Sea. This is a 1 to 4 player game. It has a 120-minute time frame. Very much has the Euro look to it. So this is
and the Euro weight.
It's a unique place located in California, very close to the border of Mexico. And this characteristics of the salty lake make it a unique location for generating geothermal energy. Recently, there's been this uptick in games that are all about planet Earth. And not complaining at all. Notice that that's a general theme.
Nature themed.
Yeah, that people are starting to be a lot more Earth conscious, which I think is a great idea.
It's a good thing.
A great opportunity to try to focus on maybe some of those developments. But at the same point, you're one of 4 engineers and you're trying to take commercial actions to sell, acquire, execute contracts. So maybe we're taking that whole save the earth and throwing it out the window. But we'll see.
Well, the minute the corporations get involved.
And it all hits the fan.
The minute money and victory points are on the line.
Yep. It has multiple paths to victory, which is always appealing as long as those can work out and balanced out between mechanics. We'll give that a try. Like I did say, it's a heavier game, 3.83, and it has that 2-hour time frame. So we'll see how that goes. That's also over there, Andy, or Doug.
Oh, nice. So all of these, not only out in the wild, but also here at Meeple Nation HQ.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, speaking of games here at Meeple Nation HQ, seem to remember that you culled your copy of Distilled.
Yes, I did.
Okay, you did get rid of it. Okay. But I do know that a lot of people really like that.
Yeah.
And there is a new expansion that just hit the shelves for it. Distilled Africa and Middle East expansion.
Yeah, and that was in my Kickstarter version.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this
just released
released retail okay. Good. So if Distilled is something that you were interested in and you didn't do the Kickstarter version of it, then this expansion is now hitting the shelves.
Yeah.
So that is one that I did want to play. So I feel bad that we got rid of that before. In the long list of games that we have to play, I'm not going to be able to play them all. So you can't cry about it for too long. I was also going to throw out there Nucleum, which it's not a Shelf of Shame game for me yet because it hasn't been sitting on my shelf for that long, but it's going to quickly if I don't get it out, get it played. But there's an expansion, Nucleum Australia, just is hitting the shelves. That's a game you're interested in. That looks pretty cool. That whole game looks really cool. So more on that in the future because I am going to sit down and learn that one sometime soon.
Ooh, excellent.
And then the only other one I was going to toss out is Flying Frog Games, the company that Andy's wallet built.
Yes.
They just recently did a new pass at Fortune and Glory, the cliffhanger game.
Oh, really?
So this is Fortune and Glory, the revised edition that's just hitting shelves. It has a pretty high retail price tag, somewhere between $70 and $80 depending on where you get it. But this is kind of a classic game that's been revised and revisited, and it looks pretty good. I haven't played this one, but I know a lot of people like it, and this is going to be exciting for a lot of people. So if I get the chance to play this one, I definitely want to.
Excellent.
Maybe that one should hit Meeple Nation HQ soon too.
Yeah, that one's not singing my name. So we'll have to see if you can tempt Andy with that.
Go watch a how to play, or not a how to play, but like an actual play of it. That's what I did. I went and watched it, and it actually looks pretty fun. Like kind of the most campy elements of James Bond thrown into a board game, mixed in with some Indiana Jones and exploration and combat. So it did seem kind of interesting. Fortune and Glory.
This is a remake, right?
Yeah, this is a revised edition. The game's been out for a long time.
Yeah, because I think there's a copy of the original version behind your left shoulder over there.
Oh, okay. We might have to go on a little hunt when we're done here. See if it's sitting over there. That makes me wonder if they'll have like an upgrade kit or something like that. So yeah. Very, very cool. Well, that is going to cover it for our new game releases. What about new game announcements? Stuff that has just been announced. What have you got on your list for that, Nathan?
Last week we talked about Skyrise. Skyrise was just fulfilling, depending on availability. That might be something that is very new or very near release. You might be able to start finding some of those copies in the wild, but as you mentioned last week with our experience with that, Skyrise is something you should keep an eye out for. It's kind of on that border of in the wild, soon to be in the wild.
Weird in between.
On my list of announcements it's a heavier game. Feels like this is going to be on your heavier Euro side. I'm going to slaughter this name, Samu Ramat. This is the rule of Assyrian empires as Queen Samurat in the 9th century BC. It's 1 to 5 players, but it is under 60 minutes, right around that 60-minute time frame, which makes it super appealing to me. I love it when it's a big beefy game, but it's not a big beefy time of political uncertainty. It's a 1 to 5 player co-op game. Sometimes I'm okay with solo games, but if it's co-op, that makes it even more appealing to me. But you'll be one of the advisors surrounding the Assyrian royal court, and each advisor has their own abilities, so they have your own asymmetrical powers that you're trying to use to spend action points, play action cards, advance the civilization and advance the kingdom, follow paths, meet the needs of the region. It's not usually one that's on my radar, but there's something that it hits enough of those goodness bonuses for me that this is a game that I am very much considering.
Very cool. Can't wait for that. A game that was recently announced that I wanted to talk about, Gaia Project. Okay, so this is one that I haven't gotten the chance to play, but I know, I think both you and Andy have this one, right? Gaia Project? And
no, I think,
is it just Andy?
Yeah, just Andy has it.
This is one that I really want to play. I want to play Gaia Project. I haven't had a chance to. It's an expansion announcement for Gaia Project. This is Gaia Project The Lost Fleet, and it says that it will introduce 4 new factions, new layout to the map, some new smaller sector tiles, new action spaces and technologies, and a whole bunch of new scoring stuff and balancing things. So if Gaia Project is something you are into, this is definitely something to be excited about, right? A new expansion for that game, which I hear people talk about all the time.
Here we talk about theme of games. So how does this theme line grab you, Doug? Tell me how this grabs you. We're a group of neuroscientists specializing in degenerative brain disease. We're implementing new technology to preserve memories in our patients. This amazing invention is the nanobots called nanoriders. Does that draw you in?
That description does actually draw me in a little bit, yeah.
Does it?
And then I click on the link and look at the art, and I'm sort of immediately turned off.
Sort of immediately turned off, yeah. I get that. It's a short game, 20 to 40 minutes. I can get by a lot of that. And then you look at the art, yeah, some of that art is kind of cheesy. I don't know. The artwork reminds me a lot of Iron Giant, which was a great movie back in the day.
I could see that.
You know, maybe the appeal doesn't turn me completely off of it, but I think I can forgive that with the short time, and the mechanics do appeal to me. This is a tile laying game where players will be traveling around the brain looking for the right amount of data they can take care of. To achieve this goal, they will have to connect doors and avoid getting caught by crystallized areas. So I don't know. I'm really excited about the tile placing mechanics of it and trying to get the pass there. The theme I'm still kind of waffling on that theme, if I really like this theme or not. But I do enjoy a good tile laying game. But that is Nanoriders.
Cool name and cool description. Not sure about the game yet, but very
we'll
cool.
See.
Yeah,
I'm sure it'll probably end up around here somewhere.
So, Nathan, I have really mixed feelings about this next announcement.
Okay.
Because one of my favorite things in the world is Japan. I love Japan.
I've known this about you.
Yeah, it's great. One of my least favorite things in the world, and don't hate me, all you cat lovers out there, but I don't like cats. Not a cat person. I think they're finicky and arrogant. Don't like cats. So this next game is a combination of one of my least favorite things with one of my most favorite things. And this is Kyoto no Neko. So Neko is the Japanese word for cat.
Uh-huh.
So this is Kyoto no Neko, or in other words, like cat of Tokyo. Tokyo's cats, something like that. It looks interesting. Kind of a fun, playful art style. 2 to 4 player game, and you're going to take on the role of kittens who are exploring a modern day version of Kyoto through a series of basically replayable scenarios. So it sounds like there might be some, not a campaign, but maybe like some connected story elements from game to game if you choose to do that. I'm not sure what to think about this one. If it was anything but cats, I'd be a little bit more interested in it. And I will say the art style it is nice, and it does have, it's not anime, but it does have that kind of playful, vibrant, poppy kind of art style to it. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, maybe go check that one out. That's Kyoto no Neko.
Sounds interesting. My daughter would love that game. So I think this episode for me is going to be brought to you by Games Under an Hour.
There does seem to be a few of those on the list. Yep.
So this one is one that I find pretty interesting. This is A Message from the Stars, 2 to 8 player game. And I do enjoy when a 2 to 8 player game is under an hour. I think that's a great time limit. You're a team of scientists. You're seeking to decipher cryptic messages from extraterrestrial civilizations. In a room with a bunch of scientists, you're trying to decode messages using deduction mechanics, which also is something that I enjoy when you're playing with a large group of people. Using deduction is a mechanic that, I don't know. I like deduction games anyways. Finding that in this game and this time limit, I think this is going to be great to get the chance to play this. Although this is a cooperative game, so we'll see how that goes, where players are encouraged in a cooperative gameplay where all scientists pool their collective intelligence to crack the alien code and unveil the hidden messages. These games, kind of a double-edged sword. I really like the theme. I really like the idea, but sometimes these games are prone to the alpha player.
Yes. Yeah. That does tend to be the common complaint.
I'm interested in this game, but this might be one that I am excited to try and play once, and then I'm going to be excited to cull once. We'll see.
Play it once and cull it once. That's why it's good to have friends like you, Nathan. I get to just play your stuff, and then you can call it.
Well, as long as you're there for the one time I play it.
Exactly. Which I miss Distilled. This system doesn't work perfectly. It saves me a lot of money.
Distilled was a good game. It's just another one of those that just wasn't going to get to the table as often. So
yeah, I get that. Okay, so one that I'm genuinely pretty excited about. Nathan, how do you feel about the evolution games? Climate was one of them, but there's Evolution, Evolution Climate. They had Evolution New World, and Oceans fits into this series of game.
Right. Evolution's the dinosaur one, right?
Yeah. Dinosaurs, other prehistoric creatures, yes.
Right, yeah. I remember that game being challenging and interesting, but not one I was anxious to get to the table again.
Okay, I can see that. I think there were a number of people who kind of felt that way about it. Now, I really liked Evolution. I liked Evolution Climate just a little bit more. I still haven't played Evolution New World, but it's on my list, and I need to get it played soon. I love Oceans.
Oceans is a great
everything game. About Oceans. I think it's fantastic. So
as long as you have those upgraded components.
You do need the upgraded components. There's no doubt about that. It adds a lot to the gameplay of Oceans for sure. So North Star Games has announced a new game in that line called Nature. Now, how exactly this is going to differ from those others, I'm not 100% sure, but the big claim here, from what I can read and what I'm understanding about what little we know about it so far, is that it boasts this modular ecosystem during setup. So the idea is the environment where you're going to play the game in can sort of be set up in a modular way before the game even starts. So if you want to play in a super favorable environment, you can set it up that way. If you want more of a harsh and challenging environment, you can set it up that way. But it seems like it uses a lot of the same mechanisms and has some of this, a lot of the similar properties with Evolution and Oceans and some of those other games. This is just nature, and on the box art, it just has a picture of like spotted leopards with familiar animals and landscape in the background. So I don't think this is like a prehistoric setting or a more fantastical setting or anything like that. I think this is supposed to be like real life nature being implemented into the Evolution system. I'm really curious about this one. This one's really piqued my interest, and I am looking forward to seeing how this one plays for sure.
Excellent. I will try it at least once, hopefully. So, Doug, how do you feel about trick-taking games?
I'm not a huge trick-taking game fan. I think when they hit, they really hit, and when they miss, they really miss.
Yeah.
And I've got a handful of them that I do really like. I actually love Skull King, the Quest for Planet 9. The crew, basically, both flavors of the crew, I thought were pretty solid. And then what was the one that was kind of the Schrodinger's cat? What was that one called? I really did like that one quite a bit. It kind of had that theme to it.
Cat in the Box.
Cat in the Box. That was it. Yeah. So there's a handful of them that I like. Aside from those, I don't know that I've played very many that I liked.
I enjoy trick-taking games, but there's a new one called Sandbag. So this is a trick-taking game of avoiding tricks. So I always enjoy a trick-taking game that has a twist. You're trying to manipulate the trump colors, you're trying to reconfigure your hands of cards, you're trying to avoid taking tricks and causing other people to take tricks. And at the same point, you're doing this with an air balloon theme. The sandbag, you're losing the sand on your air balloon so that you can go higher, and you're trying to manipulate your altitude of your balloon to avoid those tricks. So this is a highly interactive game for 3 to 6 players. In my theme of games under an hour, this is a 30-minute game.
Interesting.
So I'm interested in trying this for sure. I'm not going to put a ton of this game is going to be amazing, but I am intrigued. And another one really quick while I'm talking about intrigued games. I wish Andy was here for this one, because I think this one, it's not up his alley. It's probably up my alley. But he loves the game Alchemist. And his daughter Mara loves the game Alchemist.
For sure.
Maybe for me, I should be playing Little Alchemist. So Little Alchemist is it's an apprentice version of Alchemist. It's 2 to 4 players, plays in that 15 to 30 minutes, probably will not explode my brain. I enjoyed the theme of Alchemist, but I did not get Alchemist at all. I was having the hardest time putting together what combinations were information I was deducing to try to understand what reaction I was going to get. And so this is a much simpler version, maybe one that's more my level, because apparently Alchemist was not my level. But I think, Andy, this is a game that Andy would very much enjoy.
This seems right on par with like the My Little Everdale.
Kind of, yeah.
Or My First Scythe, or My Little Scythe, or whatever
My
those
Little
are.
Scythe.
Like a slightly heavier game that's been re-implemented to play with little kids.
Yep. Yeah,
interesting.
Get to the big boy table, but you're going to put them on the young Sherlock table. So another 15-minute game, 1 to 4 players. This is Strato. In Strato, you're going to play together as teams to overcome increasingly complex challenges, and these challenges are all about the stratosphere. Taking turns to place cards on the table against respective efforts. You can move cards, place them to try to get the elements under control, but sometimes those elements can backfire.
15 minutes is what I'm reading here.
15 minutes, yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, as long as they're quick little fun, and it's great, you can get it to the table again and again. I do enjoy my beefy games too, but some of these little simple games that I can get when my younger daughter and her husband are here for dinner, something that I can get him to play that is not going to overwhelm his neurons. This is great. So considering something like Strato would be great to consider.
I actually really like it when a game can just come in a little tiny box and pack a big punch in just like a 15 to 20 minute time period, not overstay its welcome, give you a lot of thrill for that little box that it comes in for that. We'll see if this one meets that criteria. Recently, NAR is an example of a game that meets that for me. I love that. You know, it's just simple. You can play it really quick. Just like I said, it just packs a wallop for the little box that comes in.
Right.
But you're not going to play it for more than about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
Yep.
So
I lose pretty quick at NAR.
Well, you have recently.
Yes.
That's for sure. What do you know about the Windy City?
Chicago?
Yeah.
I know that sometimes it needs to be rebuilt.
You're right. Sometimes it does need to be rebuilt. So I thought this was really interesting. There are 4 new games that are coming out. Now, in the announcement, said that this was like a quadrilogy, but they're not really related. These games are not being done by the same people or by the same production studio.
So you're not having like not the West Nile, the West Kingdom.
Yeah, it's not like that at all. So, but between 2024 and 2025, there are 4 Chicago-themed games that are all coming out. There is a game by Matt Wolf from Spielworks coming out called Raising Chicago that focuses on building the city of Chicago back in the day. Then there is a game by Quinn Brander from WizKids game called Rebuilding Chicago, which is all about rebuilding Chicago after the Great Fire in the late 1870s. So this one is all about post-fire Chicago, and you're rebuilding it. Your architects rebuilding the city from the ground up. The next one, which of course makes sense, that you would have one that deals with Prohibition. Prohibition was a big deal in Chicago. So we've got one by Sergio Halaban by Burrow Games. This is called Chicago Dry, which, like I said, focuses on the Prohibition era of Chicago. And then there is another one by Yanni Goldstein. Publisher is the Dietz Foundation, and this is called Chicago 68. And from what I can tell, this one kind of the civil rights, political, the height of that sort of movement in Chicago. It has players basically moving protesters and people around to various locations to achieve different objectives. So kind of an interesting little string of Chicago-themed games. So if that's your jam and that excites you at all, you're going to get Chicago's going to get a lot of board game love here in the next couple of years.
There's a lot of love for Chicago. So
I've never been. So
I've never been to Chicago.
Don't have an opinion. Apparently, it's windy,
and they have deep dish pizza.
And they do have deep dish. Actually, I've heard Chicago pizza is really good.
I have heard that as well.
Might have to go just for the pizza.
A game that is not under an hour.
Okay, you're breaking your mold here.
Breaking my mold here, but it does have the same theme as Sandbag minus the bag, so it's just sand.
Okay,
but
you know I hate sand, right?
Yeah,
because it's coarse and gets everywhere.
Yes. So in Sand, this is a 1 to 4 player game. Plays in 120 minutes. As you're traveling across the desert stretches in the half-ruined ancient cities, you're the last human communities struggling to survive and to forage for whatever green or life remains. You're desert travelers, and and for some reason you're riding on the backs of caterpillars. So I guess it's kind of like the theme feel.
This is kind of weird. Yeah, theme. It's like almost like a real world Dune. Yeah, big caterpillars you're riding across. It's DeVere Games, right? They usually do a pretty good job. These themes and stuff are pretty fun. The art looks really good, actually.
The art does look appealing, and you have your little caterpillars that are going here and there, and you're going from cities to cities. Something intrigues me about this. And I think I'm going to say that it's probably completely the art that pulls me in. The premise of this is okay. But I am interested in this Sand game, which is a game that is not under an hour and looks very appealing. I'm
intrigued by this one, actually. This looks pretty good. I like this. Okay, I have just a couple more that I'm going to throw out really quick. The first one was Knights of the Round Table. All focuses on the Arthurian legend. So it says, in each game of Knights of the Round Table, players choose a cycle of Arthurian myth to play, setting the tone and starting rules. They rally a company of knights and Arthurian personalities, deploying them to construct Camelot, repel invader hordes, and quest for the Holy Grail. So that right there, that grabs me. That really, really grabs me. Now, there's no images or anything about this. The cover looks pretty good, but I love the Arthurian legend. I love this theme. I love the description of this. This is one that I definitely have my eye on. Once we get more information, obviously, then we'll be able to make more informed decision about whether it looks good or not. But for right now, this one really grabs me. That's Knights of the Round Table. And then earlier today, I actually got an email. This is the Elf Creek Games newsletter, and they announced an expansion for Merchants of the Dark Road. Secret Villages. So that has me really excited too. Now, this is one that I do need more information on. I don't know if this is coming to crowdfunding or if it'll go straight to retail release. It'll probably be crowdfunded.
I would say probably.
Elf Creek usually does that. Now, Elf Creek has gotten themselves into some financial trouble, and that worries me just a little bit with fulfillment and where they're at with things. So I need to look into this a little bit more. It's hard for me to make a recommendation on this based on their history and everything, but I love Merchants of the Dark Road. And I'm super excited about an expansion coming for that, this Secret Villages expansion. So if it gives me a reason to jump back in there and play Merchants of the Dark Road, that can only be a good thing.
I'm glad that you like Merchants of the Dark Road.
I think you like Merchants of the Dark Road too. I just think you need to play it under better circumstances.
I agree.
So Nathan, before we move on to crowdfunding, do you have any other game announcements you want to mention or talk about?
No, I think as far as game announcements, I think that's got me covered.
Okay, awesome. Well, I have a few that I want to throw out here. So GameFound, they are currently in the middle of their Castles of Burgundy Special Edition reprint. So if you missed the first one and you want to jump in there on that, that is going on right now. And so far, let me just check here really quick. So far, yeah, they're making a killing on it again. They're almost to $1.6 million.
It's such a nice with seven
days left.
And it is so nice to play on.
Yeah. Now, Andy has it, so I don't feel compelled to get it, but if you like Castles of Burgundy and you want one of the best editions that's ever been made and probably will ever be made of this game, this is probably your opportunity to jump on this. Now, one thing that I do love about GameFound is they run the campaign and then you can go on and late pledge. They have that open for a long period of time. So if you're hearing about this after the fact, just go click on GameFound. Go sign up for the late pledge announcements or whatever. You can follow this project and definitely get in on it. So that's pretty exciting. They're also getting close to launching Grim Coven.
This looks pretty good.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. So this is Awaken Realms' new Kickstarter that should be launching soon. This has that sort of dark Victorian demon hunter kind of vibe to it, and I am super excited. So this is a boss battler. This is Awaken Realms' take on a boss battler. The art just looks amazing. Dark, like kind of just dark and gritty, almost like sort of Lovecraftian Cthulhu. That whole mythos meets that dark Victorian Gothic kind of vibe. As long as they nail the gameplay, I think this will be a slam dunk. But we'll see. So keep an eye out for that one. That one should be coming pretty soon.
So speaking of something that looks pretty cool and coming out pretty soon, over on Kickstarter, there is the Flames of Fafnir.
Yes,
Dragon board game.
I'm glad you're bringing this one up because this is definitely one I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, our friend Brian he hit me up on this one and asked me if I was going to back this one, and I told him I don't back Kickstarters. And he's like, yeah, I know. I see all those notifications, but you should totally check out this one. Andy got all excited about his Dead Reckoning nerd tax that he paid, dropping the dice in the ship, and they come out the side like the broad cannons. In the Flames of Fafnir, the dice tower is the dragon.
Yes.
You're dropping your contents into the dragon, and that will come out and roll across the board. And where it lands, nobody knows. Is that a pretty cool mechanic? Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah. Now, will it be good? That's the question.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to see some gameplay and for people to kind of get this in their hands. But it's got that big red dragon on the one end, and you drop stuff in it, and it changes the angles. And as it comes crashing through, it'll hit the players, or it'll hit their defenses, or the castle walls, or whatever it might be. This seems like a really cool concept for a game. I like it quite a bit.
I'm very interested in it, but you're looking at some of the pictures. There's just some rough pictures so far. The cardboard standees and some little miniatures, and so it's a work in progress still, and it could be awesome. But I am way excited for this this dragon that's launching marbles or whatever it is out of its mouth towards your your castle village that you have to defend. And Lucky Duck does a pretty good job with their games, so
Yes.
I am not too worried about it.
It gives you a lot of confidence, knowing that they're the ones putting this out.
Yeah. But launching fireballs from Fafnir's mouth, that seems like a pretty cool mechanic.
Yep.
And it seems like it was very well done.
Yep. The BGA, they do have a few screenshots up if you go and look at it, and the components.
BGG.
Sorry, BGA. BGG does some images of this up if you go to the site for this game, and the components and art and presence and everything for this game look genuinely really cool. So I'm excited about it.
It definitely has evolved from the early pictures that they show where the dragon's just a cardboard chute.
Yep. Definitely in the process of playtesting and developing this, but looks pretty good.
Be pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this episode up?
So another one that I thought would appeal to Andy, but since Andy isn't here, he'll have to just search this out on his own. And this is Flying Gang. So this is a pirate game in the 17th century where you're battling out each other. It has a very heavy Euro look to it, and it plays in 2 to 4 hours. So I'm out, but Andy full on might be in.
It has pirates in it. Yep.
Which is a big selling point for Andy.
Yeah.
That's almost like a big sci-fi selling point for me. I mean, the artwork on the box looks really cool. The artwork on the game board looks like it needs some help still, but it is an early production, so it could totally evolve and be something amazing.
Yep, for sure.
But that should be coming to Kickstarter soon. Excellent.
Well, never ending. That is the age we are living in, a never ending barrage of fun, interesting, and maybe thought-provoking games that are hitting the shelves or being announced. So super exciting.
You and those neuroscientists.
Yeah, well, maybe not so much on that one, but I'll definitely be boss hunting in a grimdark Victorian setting.
Yeah, Grim Coven looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it really does.
Or you can be downtown Chicago fighting fires, prohibition, rebuilding.
Yep.
Lots going on in Chicago. So.
The themes are endless.
Yes. Or there's a lot of sand.
Yep. Actually, that one looks really good.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited about that one. So lots to look forward to. And on that note, until next time.
We'll see you perusing those web pages, finding the next new gem to hopefully not be on your shelf of shame at the game table.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.